everybody hear me? Is it on? It's on. Okay. Please take a second to scan our wonderful safe harbor slide before we get started. Lots of good information. Okay. So I'm Mia Isaacson. I'm the product manager for Insights. I should stand over here. And I also have Devin Cheevers, who is the product marketing manager for Insights.
Hey, everyone.
And Keith Porter, who's a product owner at dealer.com. And this is New Relic Insights, where the magic happens. Thank you for being here. Oops. So magic is influencing the chain of events using mysterious or supernatural forces. And for DevOps, that could be anticipating an issue before it happens. It could be, if an issue does occur, being able to quickly and efficiently fix that problem. And it's really also about using great tools that help build value rather than firefighting. And at New Relic, we've been building tools that help engineers wield magical powers for about 10 years. And we've been doing this in an environment that's kind of littered with some terrible tools, but also the constant pressure to move faster with more complexity. And so when I started at New Relic 4 months ago, I was really excited to be working on Insights, but I didn't really know much about it. But I have a background in user experience research in an enterprise IT environment. So I can definitely understand the challenges that occur when you don't really know what's going on with your systems, because we didn't have New Relic at my last job. And so, and when things are going on with your systems and you can't really see into that, it affects your customers and therefore affecting you. And so, again, I was super excited to be able to use my background and my experience to help solve your customer problems through Insights.
Thanks, Mia. If there's one central idea that we want to get across in this talk, it's that Insights is the ultimate power tool for DevOps. And this matters for a lot of reasons. And the three terms I have here on the slide, I know you've heard them for years. You've heard them a lot over the last few days. So in a way, you're probably a little bit sick about hearing about DevOps and microservices. But the framing matters for Insights because we believe at New Relic that in a lot of ways, it's the product that we offer you that will help you take best advantage of these trends. For example, with microservices, there's an increase in complexity for you. And Insights will allow you to deal with that complexity by asking complex questions quickly and asking a rapid set of questions quickly during an incident. That's just one example that we'll go through today. DevOps requires you to continually instrument new services, new applications, and enable engineers to instrument their code. And Insights will allow your teams to do that. With the cloud, you're probably dealing with a multi-cloud environment, and you want to understand what's happening in each of those clouds through a third-party broker. And you can create dashboards easily with Insights that will be part of the solution to that challenge. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Insights and where it sits within our platform. I know some of you may be using Insights a lot, but we also have customers that aren't actually really using Insights that much. So I'm just going to do this quick setup for you before we get into Keith's examples and Mia's examples. So there's kind of 3 points I want to take away from how it fits within our platform. Number one, Insights has access to all the data that our agents report, and that's critical. You may be running APM, you may be running browser, but Insights allows you to look at any of the data that any of the agents are reporting. You can also input third-party data as well. Critically, it gives you a ton of flexibility. This is arguably the critical point of Insights. You've got these curated views that get you up and running fast with APM, with browser. They're opinionated, they're great. But today, you need to be able to create a custom view into your system. You need to enable people to self-serve and build the kind of dashboards or the kind of queries that are relevant to what they're doing. Insights is the place to do that. And critically, it comes with our Pro and Enterprise SKUs. It's a bundled product. You have access to it today, and it's really important. You have browser, you have ABM, you have access to Insights today, and you can use it. So, Keith is going to talk about this later, but his organization is a great example that's gotten to a place where they've truly operationalized on New Relic. And you can see here from left to right, we have a lot of customers that started using us for APM a long time ago, and they fixed the stick in the eye type problems. And then some of our customers then moved to more full stack visibility. They're adding maybe some of our CX agents, maybe they've added infrastructure. What we're going to try and highlight here is how you get to the next step, which is creating custom views, custom dashboards, and custom instrumentation specific to your system and across your organization. So I'm going to highlight a couple features of Insights just to, we've kind of gone from the high level. Now I'll just get into some of the features. So in Insights, you can explore all your data today. We have our Data Explorer, which allows you to look at the metric and event data that the agents report. You can easily go in there and look at a chart from a specific signal of one of those metrics or one of those events. A great tool just for your team to understand what New Relic is reporting. Really intuitive and really fast. Critically, our query language. This is a really important part of Insights. It's intuitive. The thing that our team likes to talk about is if you know SQL, you already know NERQL. And that's really important because we know some customers and some teams are a little bit, yet another query language, but you can get up and running pretty fast with that. Second point is speed. NERQL is incredibly fast, which allows your teams to run and hold context in their head during an incident or just trying to understand their system. And that's increasingly critical today in terms of the complex systems that your teams are dealing with. And the title of the track, You Don't Know What You Don't Know, this is kind of the proof in the pudding from New Relic in terms of the feature that we offer to help your teams understand that. And critically, it's powered by our event data. This is highly dimensional, unaggregated data that will allow you to ask complex questions of your systems. And then dashboarding. Dashboarding is a critical part of how you communicate information inside your organization. It's a critical part of how you deal with an incident. And Insights has rich visualizations, and the dashboarding features have gotten incredibly good recently. We've released a lot of new features around dashboarding that are allowing you to deal better with a multi-account model on New Relic if you're a large enterprise. We have Time Picker, and we have dashboard notes, which are awesome as well, which help you share that institutional knowledge in terms of a run book or just some more information on a dashboard that someone's created that you want to share with someone else within the organization. So that's a little bit of a tee up on why Insights, we believe it's a critical part of how we'll make you successful. And Mia's going to come back and talk about an example of how we use Insights during an incident.
Thanks. So just like all of you, surprise, surprise, New Relic encounters incidents as well. And these can be anything from something very, very small to something catastrophic. And regardless of the size or how it happens or where it comes from, our engineers need to go in and figure out what's going wrong. And pretty much at every point, our engineers are using Insights to help resolve these issues. And I'm just going to walk through a really kind of low-level example of an issue that actually occurred with Insights and how we used Insights to fix Insights. And hopefully this is, again, it's really basic, but I think you should be able to extrapolate kind of the thought process and the logic around it to apply it to more complex incidents and issues. So we have an AppDex, or an alert on our AppDex score, which is important because we want to make sure that as customers, when you come to Insights, you're seeing response times for your pages that are both acceptable and accurate. And so when our AppDex score dips below a certain point, we get an alert, we use PagerDuty, and that's exactly what happened. So one of our engineers was woken up in the middle of the night to check it out and see what's going wrong. So thought process around this is, okay, we know we have a browser page or web page, and there's alert on it. So the first thing we need to do is actually not go into Insights, but go into Browser, kind of poke around and see what's going wrong. And when we were in there, we saw that we had some really long response times coming from the Firefox browser. As you can see, there's a massive spike in DOM processing, and that was kind of a very clear indicator that something was going wrong. And so then we wanted to dig a little bit deeper. So we looked at the versions, say, hey, we know it's Firefox. Is there anything else that we can derive from this? Again, as we can see, there's a really big spike with version 54. So what this starts to do is tell us, okay, it's not just a Firefox issue for all Firefox users, just the ones who are using version 54. And this is a really good chance to kind of just pause for a second and recognize that our curated products like APM and Browser and infrastructure and mobile are really awesome, and they can help us get to the source of a problem. But really, we need to slice and dice the data to get down to the root cause. And when we as curious humans come upon data or a picture of information, we start asking ourselves, why does it look like that? What could be happening? And I think all of us know we start coming up with assumptions and hypotheses about what's going wrong. Well, it could be this, it could be that. But if we don't test and validate our hypotheses, we could be going down the wrong path and spending a lot of really precious critical time on something that's maybe not a problem. And so this is really where Insights comes in to help test and validate those assumptions and hypotheses and make sure that you're spending that precious time on a path that's going to get you to some resolution. So that's exactly what we did. So after our engineers spent some time in Browser looking around, we popped into Insights and essentially reconstructed the chart from Browser. And that way we can start faceting by different things. And so as you can see, we've got Firefox version 54, and we chose to facet by target grouped URL. And this is an interesting attribute because what this does is take URL paths, start stripping out unique information so that we can group essentially where people are going by the URL path. And as you can see, again, there's a huge spike. There's an indicator that something's wrong, and it's with our embed widget. And so this is kind of where we start to transition our hypothesis from, okay, maybe it's a Firefox version 54 issue to maybe it's an embed issue with Firefox users. So again, as we are building out these queries, it's helping us kind of navigate and hone in on what we want, and so we go from very broad to very narrow, and that's really what's awesome about Insights. So now what we've done is, and again, this is a good example of how you can, as you go, build on what you've already found and just continue kind of tweaking what you're trying to look for. So what we did is move the target grouped URL up into the query body, and we've said, okay, if the target group URL equals yada yada embed, now we want to see, hey, maybe this is all happening in the same place. So remember, this is like past midnight in Portland, and we're seeing a lot of activity. So that's maybe going to tell us, hey, this is happening maybe in another country where it's daylight and people are active. And so chose to facet by country code. And as you can see, it's really hard to see, Ireland. So all of these error spikes were coming out of Ireland. And so what kind of the next logical thing to do might be say, hey, maybe this is happening with one customer. Is it happening with a lot of customers? Could it be something on their end, our end? But this certain situation scenario poses kind of a problem for digging deeper. Our event type that we are searching from, the browser interaction event type, doesn't actually carry customer information with it. So we can't really use that to derive who's being impacted. And by its very nature, our embed widget strips out all unique account information. So we can't really look there to see, hey, are all of these embed widgets happening with the same customer? So, again, the nice thing about Insights is you can, wherever you are, you can pivot 90 degrees, you can pivot 180 degrees. So, depending on the situation, you could scrap this, go a completely different direction, and try and go find that information. You can tweak, you can change it to kind of find what you're looking for. But for this situation, we said, you know what, we feel comfortable enough that it's all kind of coming, we know it's coming from the same place, it's all coming from the same browser. We just want to make sure it's kind of working normally. And because it's not inhibiting anybody from doing their job, it's just a little bit slow, we're okay not digging deeper, but we still need to find kind of a resolution, right? So what we ended up doing is making sure locally that there weren't any performance issues with the pages. I want to make sure that we're seeing expected response times, which we were. We said, okay, well, again, we're seeing normal response times, so it might be something on the customer end. But again, we're getting paged on something that may or may not be an issue, so we still need to address that. So the last thing we did to kind of close this out was actually put in a baseline alert. So Nadja talked about this at the keynote. It's really, really cool. As you can see, our AppDex, the blue line, has a little bit of variation. And the baseline alerts use historical data to predict, and it's using a dynamic threshold versus a static. And so what this allows us to do is adjust some of the sensitivity to when we actually receive these alerts, because we can see some patterns even in just the short snippet that things are going up and down. And again, we want to make sure that we're alerted for critical issues that we can really actually do something about, not just issues that say, hey, it's an issue. So again, this is just a very simple example. It wasn't a critical, catastrophic problem, but this is really how a lot of our teams are using Insights to basically leverage the functions that Devin talked about, the ad hoc querying, the flexibility, to really kind of, again, start really broad and go really narrow.
Thanks, Mia. Another important part of how we see our customers taking full advantage of the platform of New Relic is our mobile applications. We have a standalone mobile application for Insights. And in a lot of ways, I think it represents the power of Insights, but it also represents the power of New Relic, which is that we have this world-class integrated platform across CX, application performance monitoring, and infrastructure. And by building these first-class agents and first-class experiences across all parts of your stack, you're going to get just the seamless experience as you're traversing up and down. And we're extending that philosophy throughout our UI on desktop. So for example, we have this Add to Insights feature now, where across any of our created views, you can add that chart to an Insights dashboard easily. And we're also taking that across different platforms that you're using, including mobile apps. So I know a lot of people have mobile applications across the vendor space, but we're really proud of our Insights mobile application because it's going to give you the power of Insights in the palm of your hand, and that turns out to be pretty powerful. Keith has got a great example of how he used that during an incident, which he can speak to later. We also have customers like Ryanair who are using Insights not only to understand the performance of their systems, but also the performance of their business, and that's critical for the organization. You have executives that can check sales in real time going into a meeting. You can also do things like run a query off your device. You can display charts on your Today screen, and of course you can share charts as well. So just a call out for the mobile application. You should please go ahead and download it. We're really proud of it. We also recently released Radar, which is also in our mobile applications. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Mia to wrap up before Keith comes on.
Awesome. And I highly recommend that if you don't use the mobile app, just go into the store. It's free. There's an Android, there's an iPhone and an iPad version. Super helpful. Like anybody who uses it that you talk to always has good things to say about it. So the last example before we get to Keith is, so we all know that New Relic has agents get installed on applications, and they send event data and metric data back into our systems that you can pull up on Insights. And you can create custom events through the agent APIs, which is really awesome, and I highly encourage it. But it is limited, those custom events are limited to the applications that those agents sit on. So what do you do about the applications that don't have agents or can't have agents on them? How do you see that data and close that visibility gap? And that's really where we, New Relic Insights, allow you to kind of make your own magic and allow you to kind of customize the data that you're seeing. So with custom events, sorry, I cannot see, you can collect data from otherwise non-monitorable sources. So what I hear a lot is like Kafka queues. So people will send custom events on their Kafka queues back into Insights. And the cool thing is that you have the same access to those custom events just as you do any other data that's being served up by the agents in Insights, and you can still leverage the power of NERCL against that custom event data as well. It doesn't require reliance on agents, so you're not constrained to the collection cycles of the agent. And this is important because there may be things going on in your system that happen really, really frequently that you want to collect, or they may happen super infrequently, but it's really important when they do happen. So through custom events and custom instrumentation, you can control the collection cycle and the frequency or infrequency that your systems or applications are reporting back in. Scalable and additive, and this is really important because I think sometimes when we talk about custom instrumentation, sometimes people get like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work, and I don't know if I'm going to get the value from it for the amount of work that it's taking. And so what we like to say is, again, it's scalable and additive. You can really dip your toe into custom events and attributes. You do not have to jump all the way in. You can instrument one or two things. And as it starts reporting in, you can start looking at it in combination with the data that the agents serve up, and start seeing, is this valuable to me? And if it's not, choose a different event, or choose a different attribute, or stop reporting and report something else. And you can really scale it up and down very easily. And so this is something, again, that you don't have to just go all in and know what you need to instrument. You can experiment with it and see where there's value and then build on that. And then finally, I think the most important thing about custom events and attributes is you get to augment the data that's collected for you. So these agents serve up all this data. You're collecting all this data through custom events, and we have an API for that. So again, super easy to do. And you can look at that data using NERCL separately, or you can combine it and look at it together and help close that visibility gap, and really allows you to visualize data across a lot of different systems in a way that's contextual to you and your business and your use cases and your business problems and the problems that you're trying to solve. So I'd like to welcome Keith up here now from dealer.com to talk about his experience with custom events and attributes.
Hey, everybody. When we were rehearsing the other day, I was talking to Devin. He brought up the mobile stuff, and I told him about an experience I had about 3 weeks ago. I got paged while I was at the dog park with my dog, and I didn't have my computer. And I was able to hop on and help my team diagnose a problem from the bench at the dog park using the mobile app. And I jump into the mobile app regularly when I get paged so that I don't have to run to my computer, because I can get the data about what's going on without logging into our VPN. It's super helpful. So I just wanted to add that because I think if you guys aren't using it, it's great. I'm going to talk about what we do at dealer.com. I'm a product owner for a DevOps team that works on our website platform. If you guys have shopped for a car in the last 10 years, you've probably used one of our websites. We serve about 17,000 car dealerships and host websites for them. 400 million page views a month. We do a lot of traffic. And over the last 2 years, our monitoring process has kind of shifted in a pretty natural way towards New Relic and Insights from a few other tools. And I'm going to talk specifically about how the use of custom attributes has kind of changed and really given us a lot of extra value out of the New Relic platform. So a quick show of hands, which I'm sure everybody's really excited to do. Who uses custom attributes already with what they're doing with New Relic? Okay, so it's a few. You guys probably, hopefully, have the same experience that we do, that before using those, we were just scratching the surface of what we could do with the platform. And this has really allowed us to answer questions and ask questions about our platform and our users that we didn't even know that we could get answers to before. So when we started using Insights, it was really high-level application performance monitoring. We put in a few small custom attributes to start, client IDs, site IDs, page IDs, so that we could break down and drill into issues that were specific to those areas of our application. But it didn't give us as much detail as we needed. So we started a process of adding custom attributes, and this evolved over time. We would segment by page classes, classifying like behaviors if a request went out and hit a particular service or used some area of code. We would set flags for those, add them to New Relic. We had a few instances where we would add custom attributes in the middle of an incident. It's easy and fast, and we could get the information that we needed to make better decisions. We would also regularly add attributes as action items that came out of postmortems. Quickly after that, we started to bake them into our process for new features, to understand existing code behaviors as acceptance criteria for monitoring new features, and now even to look ahead long-term for figuring out how our users are using our application, and so that we can make business decisions about that. And a process that we've used that's kind of helped us zero in on what it is that we need to add, because it can be confusing, to know or difficult to understand what exactly it is that you need until you need it. So we've classified the kind of data that we add to our events in these 6 kind of broad categories. We have content metadata. This is stuff that is integral to the page, things about the page size, the number of images on the page, total image weight. Page level metrics, which might sound similar to content, but these are things that are more specific to our platform, the widgets, third-party integrations. We've also got, I can't see real well from here, great, server and app metadata. So this is stuff that's happening to the transaction as it's running through our system. Transaction metadata here. We instrument anybody who uses Hystrix. This has been super helpful for us. Anytime we hit a Hystrix circuit during the course of serving a request, we flag that whether it's opened or closed. So we can really easily segment all of the traffic that's going through a single code path. And if we have a Hystrix circuit that's open, it's really easy for us to zero in on where that problem is and what the impact is to our platform. The client metadata here is super valuable. We're able now, with all the client information that we add to our events, we can zero in and get a single client's website performance, a group of clients' website performance. And as I said, one of the things that we're starting to add now too is information about user behavior. And the one thing here that I'm going to talk about in the next slide is free text search terms. So we had a question that we needed to answer about free text search. We wanted to know what the most common search terms were that were landing users on no results pages, how often they were landing on those no results pages. So we added this to our events, and we're able to find the answer to that question pretty easily. What we didn't anticipate is all the questions that we would be able to answer after that and be able to drill into client-specific issues. Because we have all those other pieces of information on the events, all the other custom attributes, we can drill down to a single group, a particular OEM. We can answer questions for them about what their users are searching for, what search terms aren't landing users where they expect to be. And most importantly for us is we've been able to deprioritize a lot of work and not invest where it didn't make sense. We have a customer that comes to us that says this one particular search term, it's very important that this works. We can say definitively, nobody on your website is searching for that, or lots of people are, but in most cases, nobody's searching for that. Nobody across your program is searching for that. This isn't a problem. We'll invest time somewhere else to solve a problem that's actually important to your business. So another thing, we've started to use this to measure features as we roll them out. So as I stated earlier, we've kind of baked this now into our development process. We think about these things at the acceptance criteria level before we start. And my team being a DevOps team, a lot of the work that we do is difficult to see. It's feature neutral to anybody who's viewing our websites. The little graph here on the top right, this is a distribution of traffic for Subaru websites across the different traffic pools that we have. And what we were trying to do was homogenize the way that we route traffic on our platform, which would be a difficult thing for us to communicate to our stakeholders that we had actually achieved, and difficult for us too. So what we did is we added instrumentation about the pool, the traffic pool that served the request, some other routing information too that's not shown here, and then went about, investing the time building out the new solution. And then when we released it, in our first iteration, you can see pretty clearly, I think, on this graph, where the traffic distribution changed and became a lot more static and predictable. And the great thing about this was that literally within minutes of rolling this out, we were certain that we had solved the problem that we had set out to solve. And we could demonstrate that to our stakeholders who were less technical, the people who generally just trusted us to do what they asked us to do, because what they asked us to do was difficult to demonstrate. The next example here down on the bottom, it's a little bit less exciting to look at. We were rolling out a new feature that had the potential to seriously impact our response times. And we added instrumentation around whether or not that feature was active. It was a thing that we rolled out over the course of several weeks. You can actually see here where we rolled it back. The blue graph, the top one on the right, is the number of hosts that we have that are running the new system. We got out to about 100%, had a couple of regressions. We needed to roll it back. But we were able to monitor in real time the difference in performance of hosts that were running with the new system, hosts that were running without the new system, and still dig in where there were differences. We could dig into particular areas of our application where they were different. Mia started talking a little bit about custom events earlier, and this is an area where we've kind of just dipped our toe in. We've been using custom attributes a ton, and there's a couple situations that we found where the custom attributes didn't really solve the problem for us. The first example here, we run a content management platform, and our users can make changes to their websites. And those changes can and often do have performance impacts on their website, and they call us about them. And we don't have a single place where we can go to correlate site performance for one of our customers and the changes that they've made to the platform that might be impacting that site performance. So our investigation process involved going to lots of different places to collate information. What we've done is added custom events that instrument the changes that happen to the website configuration. And we did this as custom events because there are potentially many pieces of configuration that will change over the course of a single transaction. So it didn't make sense to roll these up as part of a transaction. We can now put these on a dashboard alongside site performance for particular customers or groups of customers. And if we see a change in site performance for them, we can really quickly eliminate changes that they've made or attribute it to a change that they made and dig in further without having to reference a whole bunch of other systems. The next thing that we've done here, our platform availability, we have a couple services that are external to our application that monitor our platform's availability. And without custom events, we wouldn't be able to get that information into Insights. It lives on those other tools. So we've instrumented those tools to now publish to New Relic when they see that our platform availability has been impacted in some way. Fortunately, here, I couldn't actually find a better graph with more outages, so that's good for me. The graph isn't super exciting, but you can see a couple spots there where we experienced some platform availability issues. We were able to publish those to New Relic. We have these alongside all of our other monitoring dashboards, and it pulls all that information together, which is super valuable. The next slide that I'm going to show you, this is my last one, and this one I think is really cool. You guys all, I'm sure, are aware of the eclipse that happened a couple weeks ago. That morning, our team experienced a partial networking outage, and quite a few requests were prevented from getting to our data center. We had a bunch of alerts that went off. We fixed the problem. But when we looked at New Relic, it suggested that there was still a problem. Our traffic was down. It's difficult to see the yellow line here. The yellow dotted line on this graph shows the previous week's traffic. The blue line shows the current week's traffic, or the current day's traffic. And we typically track on those right on point. So anytime that there's a difference there, that's a signal to us that something's wrong. So and this was manifesting exactly the same way that the network outage did, a drop in traffic, spiky. So we thought that we still had a problem. And since we didn't have information, we didn't have requests coming into our data center, it was difficult for us to figure out where that was. We looked for a while, couldn't find anything, and then we started speculating that maybe it was the eclipse. People weren't in front of their computers, they weren't shopping for cars. But darn, how are we going to prove that? All of our monitoring everywhere else is aggregate. It looks at our whole system. We didn't have a way to look at it geographically. So as soon as we started speculating that it might be the eclipse, we jumped into New Relic. We have the information about the state that the account belongs in, so whether they're in Oregon, California, Texas. So quickly we thought, well, the impact of the eclipse is very focused geographically. So let's break it down. Let's pick a couple states where they're going to have impact from the totality of the eclipse, and a few states that aren't. And hopefully we can prove that indeed the eclipse is what's causing this weird traffic pattern on our system, and it's not a networking issue that's preventing people from accessing our system. So the graphs on the right-hand side there show a couple, it's difficult to see, but they show a couple of states where the eclipse had an impact. And you can see our traffic drop off significantly right around the time of totality and leading up to it. And then down on the bottom, the left two show Massachusetts and New Mexico that didn't have any impact from the eclipse. So we were able to quickly identify that this wasn't a problem with our system, and it was a problem with users not accessing our system, which was great because we were able to stop investigating a network issue that didn't exist. We would have spent probably most of the day figuring that out, as the eclipse didn't end until late in the afternoon on the East Coast. So this was hugely valuable to us. We would have never anticipated that that information would have helped us solve this problem, which I think is what the key to the custom events is with Insights and how we've gotten so much value out of it, that you put that information on there, you don't know exactly when it's going to be useful, but it can help you answer questions that you didn't even know you were going to have to answer. So I'm going to hand it back to Mia. Thank you.
So I know we're running just a few minutes behind. There's just one thing I want to talk about because everybody loves roadmap items. So company-wide dashboards we released. Hopefully everybody's using them. Lou talked about it at Keynote. Dashboard API, super exciting, currently in beta. Please come by the booth if you're interested. Use the API to programmatically control creates, reads, updates, and deletes. It'll be really helpful and useful if you're an enterprise organization. The last thing, coming up next is something we're calling shareable snapshots. So maybe in your organization, not everybody has New Relic login. Maybe they wouldn't use it if you gave it to them, or maybe they shouldn't have it in the first place for various reasons. But how do you share information with people who don't have that access? And really, that shouldn't be a barrier to sharing information. So there's 3 components to shareable snapshots. One is exporting charts and dashboards into different formats so that you can drop them into an email, into Slack, presentations, really anywhere where you can use an image. That should be helpful. Slack integration, yay. If anybody's using Seymour or Radar, if you were part of the beta or the limited release, that Slack integration that exists, we're looking to replicate that in Insights. And finally, email snapshots of dashboards. So you may have executives or managers who need to kind of see what's going on regularly, but again, maybe they're not able to really navigate Insights, or you don't need them in there. What we're looking to do is allow you to set up email reporting so you can schedule emails on a cadence that works for whoever it's going to, and then they'll get a snapshot of that dashboard at that time. Yeah, so we're just gonna think, so what's next? We spent a good 40 minutes with you guys. Hopefully it was really helpful. What's next? Please visit the booth. We're gonna be there. Right? Keith's going to be at the booth, so if you have questions for him, we'll just be in the booth area. If you haven't had time to explore the docs, it's a really good starting point if you're not using Insights, or you need to kind of figure out what are we talking about, how do you do the things that we're talking about. And then finally, if you have the opportunity to attend New Relic University, I know it was on site yesterday and today, but it's also self-paced training online with videos and things like that that can help you along kind of on your Insights journey. So thank you so much for attending our session. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.